Finding trust in a spinning world. I'm going to begin with a joke about a beloved teacher on his deathbed. Turn the light on so you can see me better. A teacher is lying on his deathbed, and his students are lined up at his side. The wisest student is beside the old teacher, the second wisest behind her, the third wisest behind, and so on, down the length of the bed, into the hall, down the stairs, and out into the street, where the simplest student is at the back of the line. The wisest student leans over, and in a soft, reverent voice, she asks, "Oh, great teacher, before you go to be with God, please tell us, what is the meaning of life?" The teacher raises his head a little, slowly opens his eyes, and with great effort says, "Life is a river." The wisest student turns to the student behind her and says, "The teacher says life is a river." That student turns to the one behind him and repeats this wisdom, and so on and so forth, out the room, down the hall, down the stairs, and outside to the end of the line is a child who asks, "Why is life a river?" And that question makes its way back up the line, up the stairs, and into the room with the dying teacher. And the eldest student leans in and asks the teacher, "Why is life a river?" The old teacher raises his head again and says, "Well, maybe it's not a river." So life may or may not be a river. And it's clear that we don't all draw the same meaning or conclusions from the available world. In ancient Greece, there was a philosopher named Heraclitus, whose main teaching was that we never put our feet in the same river twice, because the river and life is always in motion, ever changing. Sounds a lot like impermanence. There was another philosopher, Parmenides, who lived around the same time. He argued, despite motion and the change of forms, all is one, arising out of a single eternal reality, being. Is it possible they were both right? We need to take the forms of our world seriously. If we tried to cross a busy freeway blindfolded, the lesson might be impermanence. And yet, it may be possible to glimpse a deeper, timeless reality that might inform us through inspiration, bowing to the muse, listening to stillness, or acting through a flow state. Joseph Campbell's suggestion to get us on the pathway of our life is to follow your bliss. Trust that if you follow an inner light or essential love, you will find the beam of your light, life. He states, if you do follow your bliss, you put yourself on a kind of track that has been there all the while waiting for you. And the life you ought to be living is the one you are living. When you can see that, you begin to meet people who are in the field of your bliss, and they open the doors to you. I say, follow your bliss and don't be afraid, and doors will open where you didn't know they were going to be. If you follow your bliss, doors will open for you that wouldn't have opened for anyone else. End quote. Wise, inspirational, perhaps incomplete. What could easily be missed in Campbell's follow your bliss philosophy is the fact that Campbell spent 5 years of his life basically wandering because there was little opportunity at that time, the 1930s economic depression, and his path was not clear. But he spent that time in self-education, reading books and seeking experience of perennial wisdom. He spent a year in a rustic cabin, reading books that publishers sent him for free. No doubt, he must have been resourceful, following his bliss without professional title or recognition. Following our bliss isn't a magic formula for success. There are people all over the world who find one way to feed their spirit and another way to feed their stomachs. Of course, we want to merge our passion and quest for truth into the flow of our one life. That can mean a lot of things, but probably not fame and fortune. Shamanist Sandra Ingerman tells the story of how customers stood in longer lines at the grocery checkout because the cashier radiated love and blessings. Paul Selig, an atheist who became a reluctant psychic, tells the story of a woman who asked him, "What is my true job in life?" She told him that she was a bus driver for young school children. She said that she felt vibrant love for every child that came on her bus, like she was blessing the children. That sounds like a calling to me. I've heard stories from a lot of people who reported following their bliss didn't work out the way they planned. In my own life, there was an ongoing inquiry to check in with my whole self and ask if I was on the beam of my life. I consider myself a competent intuitive, and yet the answers were not always clear. Sometimes I saw the wisdom of hard choices in hindsight. It was often trust more than bliss that helped me to navigate uncertainty. The root of the word confidence is a Germanic word that means trust, to trust a life. Restoring confidence and renewing trust flow from the same source. Like finding true love, renewing trust operates best in the absence of fear and other small-minded obstacles. Developing trust may require that we pay attention, cultivate our lives as a match for our potential. We are more likely to find agreement for our bliss when we are paying attention to the inner and outer flow of our lives. We need to make prudent choices based on our best information, hold space for the depth of our bliss, and look both ways before crossing the street. We become more fully human when our trust arises from the sense of feeling connected with all that is. A less precise word for trust might be faith, but faith is often paired with belief, say, an institutional belief that becomes blind faith. Being told what you should believe is a red flag. Trust may be a better word than faith. Trust implies that even given obstacles, we sense that we can actualize potential. Trust comes out of a resilience or the feeling of coming into accord with an essential aspect of being. Now, of course, we can trust our personal skills and our ability to upgrade our skills to match circumstance. But the deep trust that can hold uncertainty transcends the egoic small self and connects through something transpersonal, loving, and whole. We can find that deep trust through personal effort and through the synergy of a bonded community. Thich Nhat Hanh says there is no distinction between a bonded community and true love. They are one and the same. Love makes an invitation to trust. Here's a quote from Rilke, a highly regarded poet who wrote in the German language. If you trust in nature, in the small things that can so suddenly become huge, immeasurable, if you have this love for what is humble, and try very simply as someone who serves to win the confidence of what seems poor, then Everything will become easier for you, more coherent, reconciling, and in harmony with your innermost awareness, awakeness, and knowledge. That's a long sentence. He suggests that you trust Mother Nature, stay open to the wonder and awe. Then you can experience ease of being and act with harmony and awareness. The natural world is rich and so much larger than the small self. Discovering trust takes effort. And if we are lucky, that effort will flow from the passion of our bliss. But sometimes, in order to discover something new, we need to shed the old, like a snake shedding its skin. We may have resistance to change and shut ourselves off from the source of the present moment. We may have habits that are worn out or no longer fit, like the clothes we wore when we were a different person. There may be clutter in a house that requires disciplined removal. Then we can cultivate the patience to connect with interbeing, a larger sense of self that can guide us through uncertainty. We can be receptive with discernment to the charge of something divine. The knowledge or direction we find may feel incomplete, sometimes barely enough to keep us going, but enough to keep us grounded and balanced as we seek to express the truth of who we are with ever-growing precision. The journey to know who we really are in truth is ongoing. But if we just try and think our way to truth, it may seem like a dog chasing its tail. Nasruddin is a Sufi sacred clown. Stories about Nasruddin are meant to entertain and teach. Here's one. One day, Nasruddin went into a bank with a check to cash. The clerk asked, "Can you identify yourself?" Nasruddin took out a mirror and peered into it. Then he looked up at the clerk. "Yes, that's me, all right." We can laugh at the foolishness, or we can wonder if Nasruddin is seeing the truth within. There is an ancient Asian teaching story where a person embarks on an arduous journey for truth. At the end of the quest, they find their holy grail in the form of a singular and sacred book. When they open the book, there is only a mirror. In a mirror, we see a true reflection of the surface self. But that's not all. The challenge is to find the truth within each of us that goes beyond the small self and into the depth of heart and mystery. When you choose to gather your wonder, when you choose to open yourself to mystery, when you choose to honor the flame that lights up your heart, trust that you will find your place to stand in this spinning world. I'd like to end with a very short poem by Mary Oliver titled, "I asked Percy how I should live my life. You need to know Percy is her dog. Love, 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 says Percy, and hurry as fast as you can along the shining beach or the rubble or the dust. Then go to sleep. Give up your body heat, your beating heart. Then trust." Thank you for your kind attention.